Cemetery ghosts? Specters of witches? These are just some of the things you can allegedly find as you walk around the storied city of Salem, Massachusetts. But the more you walk around and understand its haunted lore, the more you will realize there's much more to this city than meets the eye. Oh yes, there is history here. When it comes to places to visit for Halloween and spooky season, Salem, Massachusetts should be on anyone's itinerary. Each year, approximately 1.8 million visitors make their way to the Witch City to visit its many museums, supernatural stores, restaurants, and historical points of interest. And once you have visited the city, you will quickly realize why Salem often leaves many travelers and locals bewitched. Of course, Salem has attracted much fame and infamy over its eponymous witch trials, which took place from 1692 to 1693. After a group of young Puritan women began acting unusually, more than 200 Salem residents were accused of witchcraft. Of these individuals, 19 were convicted and hanged, and one particular person, whose story we will cover in a bit, was actually tortured to death for refusing to cooperate. But although the city has come to terms with the trials in the centuries since, they are just a part of the city's long and complex history. This reality becomes apparent once you get to know Salem's allegedly haunted landmarks, not all of which are tied to the witch trials. In fact, these destinations span centuries, covering different chapters in the city's complicated legacy. Our first stop, St. Peter's San Pedro Episcopal Church, looks innocent enough. Its 19th century architecture blends right into the town's picturesque skyline, while its bell chimes add character to the city's New England atmosphere. St. Peter's states it has the oldest church bell in the country, which was custom casted in England in 1740, alongside a 10-chime carillon from the 1800s. But St. Peter's, which is located behind Salem's National Park Visitor Center in a multi-level parking lot, is rumored to sit on some dark secrets, quite literally. And its previous owner, an illustrious Salem personality, could have a role in it. The land where the church stands today formerly belonged to a wealthy member of Salem's 17th century elite, Philip English and his wife Mary. Philip, who was born Philippe Langlois on the Isle of Jersey to French Huguenots, made his mark as a merchant, largely due to his international network, and he stood out from his more reserved, pious Puritan neighbors. Philip's power and status could be felt throughout the town. According to the Salem Witch Museum, the native French speaker owned a wharf, 14 town lots, 20 ships, and a home he called the Great House that had a waterfront view. His lots included the one that St. Peter's sits on today. But Philip's wealth and penchant for not paying taxes did not sit well with Salem's predominantly Puritan community. It also did not help that he defeated members of Salem's Putnam family in an election for being a town selectman. It's said that these community tensions and distaste for Philip's business practices fueled witchcraft accusations against Philip and Mary. While Mary was arrested in April 1692, Philip was able to evade authorities for some time after receiving advance notice, even reportedly hiding under a pile of dirty laundry at a friend's house to avoid authorities. He was eventually arrested and examined in late May, but while he and Mary were being held for trial in Boston, a pair of reverends helped them escape to New York until the trial subsided. Although they sacrificed a 4,000-pound bond, the escape was likely life-saving. But although Salem's newly formed Superior Court could not find sufficient evidence to convict the Englishes of witchcraft, that did not mean Salem's Puritans left the family off the hook. When Philip returned to Salem in 1693 with his wife, he found his great house in a not-so-great state. Not only did locals loot the home, but Sheriff George Corwin, a notorious figure from the witch trials, had confiscated property that was worth roughly £1,200. Philip would spend the rest of his life suing the town to get back his property. Ultimately, his heirs were only able to collect £200 worth of this amount after he passed away at the age of 84 in 1736. While he may have lost his suits against the town of Salem during his lifetime, that does not mean he did not exact revenge against the Puritans in other ways. A few years before his death, Philip donated property close to the city center for the construction of an Anglican church. This move was a direct attack on the religious philosophy of the Puritans, who moved to America out of their distaste over the Church of England's values. Although St. Peter's started out as a yellow wooden building, the current structure was developed between 1833 and 1872, and much of the church's haunted reputation stems from its construction. Outside by the church's main entrance, you will find two small fenced-in plots filled with elaborate headstones. But look closely, and you may find yourself wondering how could they fit all of those bodies on either side of the church? The thing is, there are no bodies there at all. To accommodate the church's growing capacity needs, its builders needed to expand the church's footprint into an existing cemetery of already buried bodies. The headstones that are by the church's front entrance were in the way of the church's building's footprint. Unsurprisingly, many of the remains of those buried in the cemetery were disturbed. And while some tombstones from those graves were moved to the fenced-in areas in front of the church, the bodies remained buried underneath the building. Naturally, given how the church was constructed, it's said that St. Peter's San Pedro Episcopal Church is haunted by the restless spirits who are buried underneath. It's believed these spirits even include that of Philip English himself, who reportedly appears from time to time behind the headstones. His remains are among those that are beneath the present-day chapel. But if spooky churches do not whet your appetite, this next spot likely will. If you head back to Salem's main strip, there's a popular restaurant you can try at the Daniel Low & Company building. That place, Rockafellas, has been operating in this historic structure for more than 20 years. But the building's past holds some spooky secrets, some of which have been made known through interactions with staff and guests. The building, which used to host a church, was the longtime home of prominent American jewelry company Daniel Low & Company. The company was responsible for introducing the witch spoon, one of the first popular Salem-specific souvenirs, to call back to the witch trials. Although the company was revived in 2022, its original iteration remained family-owned through 1995. But the company's eponymous founder, Daniel Low, allegedly died in the building from a heart attack on February 3rd, 1911. And if rumors are to be believed, Daniel's spirit still watches over the premises. As the restaurant's managers revealed during an interview with CBS News Boston in 2023, you may just catch a glimpse of Daniel looking down on modern-day Salem if you look up toward the windows on the second floor. And Daniel is not the only spirit to allegedly haunt the building. One day coming into work, one of the managers spotted something unusual in a picture of the restaurant one of the bartenders took the year prior. Something that was never there before. Just by the entrance was what appeared to be a woman in a blue dress, only she was translucent. And 2 days after the discovery, the computer the image was uploaded to died. The restaurant has since honored this mysterious woman with a mural inside, showing her singing with a jazz band. You can also toast to the spirit's honor by ordering a lady in blue cocktail, which the restaurant named after her. And once you have finished your meal, you will find you're not far from Salem's oldest cemetery, and one that holds secrets just as storied. If you go to the Peabody Essex Museum and walk down the pathway next to its entrance, you will find yourself at the Old Burying Point Cemetery. Established in 1637, the cemetery used to be right on the water before the town was built out. It is home to the graves of a Mayflower passenger, colonial political figures, and even someone who died from a lightning strike. The cemetery also features notables from Salem's witch trials. These include the grave of the notorious Judge John Hathorne, who built a reputation for his swift and aggressive witchcraft convictions. Even the judge's great-great-grandson, the famous author Nathaniel Hawthorne, actually added a W to his last name to distance himself from his notorious relative. But in terms of actual distance, Nathaniel did not stray far from his great-great-grandfather's resting place. The Salem native frequently visited the house next to the cemetery to court his future wife, who lived there, and would walk around the headstones to get inspiration for his book character names. Even though Nathaniel had close Salem ties, do not expect to meet his ghost. He is actually buried in Concord, Massachusetts, with his wife Sophia. Judge Hathorne, on the other hand, is a different story. Some tour sites claim his spirit has been spotted on the grounds, filling the cemetery with a sense of dread and gloom. And speaking of the witch trials, just outside of the cemetery is a memorial to the victims who were executed. It's lined with 20 stone slab benches, carved with the names of those who died, with the headstones belonging to the Puritans who were alive at the time, quite literally turning their backs away. While most of the stone benches show the names of people who were hanged, there is one that highlights a unique, barbaric execution associated with the rumored haunting in the cemetery behind, namely one involving a mysterious woman in a white gown. That bench honors Giles Corey, a wealthy farmer who owned a large estate in Salem. He was accused of witchcraft alongside his third wife, Martha. As tradition states, Giles was in a bit of a quandary at the time of his accusation. Giles, who was in his 80s, wanted to pass his land and wealth down to his sons-in-law. But as these tales often claim, under the colonial laws governing Salem, if someone pled guilty to, or was found guilty of, a capital crime like witchcraft, then the government would take over their property. Therefore, when the court ordered Giles to stand trial after he was identified as a wizard in prior testimony and accused of tormenting neighbors, Giles refused to cooperate. While he pled not guilty to the charges, he stood mute when asked if he would submit himself to a jury trial. Now, in reality, there is some debate regarding why Giles stood silent, and if it was indeed to protect his property, or because he was not confident he would receive a fair trial. And even if he was found guilty at trial, authorities could not take over his real estate under the laws in effect, though his personal property could have been fair game. But one thing was certain. At the time in Massachusetts, authorities could not move forward with a trial if the accused refused to enter a plea or verbally agree to a jury trial. But if that was the case, how come the others accused of witchcraft did not stand mute like Corey? That's because they risked facing a legal tactic known as peine forte dure, which was designed to force a plea response. How? By having authorities place wooden boards over the accused and pile on large rocks or weights to press down on the individual until the person either died or gave a plea response. It's no wonder that this strategy took its name from the French words for hard and forceful punishment. Therefore, Sheriff George Corwin and other authorities stripped the elderly Giles naked in a field not far from the original location of Salem's jail. They then began piling large rocks on top of him to force Giles to speak. And he did, but he did not provide the response Corwin was looking for. According to legend, whenever the sheriff would ask how he would be tried, Giles simply responded, "More weight." This exchange went on for several hours until Giles died. As for Martha, she pled not guilty and cooperated with her trial. Sadly, she was hanged with 7 other convicted witches at Proctor's Ledge on September 22, 1692. Much like other victims of the trials, Giles and Martha were not given a proper Christian burial that those in the old Burying Point Cemetery received. But although their final resting places are unknown and subject to rumors, there is a Corey buried in this particular cemetery, Giles' second wife, Mary Bright Corey. She passed away 8 years before Giles' gruesome death. Rumor has it the lady in white is Mary herself, waiting patiently for her husband to come to her, not knowing anything about his fate. But while she is known to materialize from time to time, good luck catching her on camera. Allegedly, this spirit starts to disappear the moment she detects someone watching. It's said there are others too. Some have reported seeing a woman in a blue dress in a picnic basket with a child in the back corner of the cemetery. They both were believed to have been victims of a fire. Ultimately, you should walk through the cemetery to see for yourself, if not to take in the complex history that is all around. Of course, we are only just getting started with our tour. Some of the locations on deck in our next video include a haunted hotel, and even a seafood restaurant with connections to Alexander Graham Bell and the first person to be executed for witchcraft in Salem. But if you're on your way to the Witch City, or are just planning out your trip, these places would make a great start to explore first. As you will quickly find out, storied cities like Salem are full of surprises. Thanks for watching There Is History Here. If you enjoyed diving into the past with us, make sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. Both are free to do and mean a lot for helping us grow our channel and reach more people. Your support helps us continue exploring the stories that shaped our world and the unique history that's right under our noses.